Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Today's episode is The Shakespeare Code, Episode 2 of Season 3. As a thank you for saving his life, the Doctor takes Martha on a quick trip in the Tardis to meet William Shakespeare. This episode is written by Gareth Roberts, directed by Charles Palmer, and it originally aired on the 7th of April 2007. It was watched by 7.2 million viewers. Let's introduce ourselves.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Frank.
Hello, this is Auburn.
This is Brian.
Hey, Nani, this is Kelsey. Verily, I say to thee, forsooth, and...
No, don't do that.
No.
And this is Josh.
And this is Eugene. In 16th century London, a young man serenades the fair maiden Lilith from beneath her window till she begs him to enter. Once inside her home, he sees oddities that can only be part of the black arts. She transforms into an ugly witch and introduces two more, Mother Doomfinger and Mother Bloodtide. Together, they devour the young man.
I like that song Doomfinger from Spies Like Us.
I thought the matte paintings looked nice.
Yeah.
You know? In this whole episode, it set a good mood. I thought there's some really good work in there.
I thought the sets and the effects actually were really good in this whole episode. For part, very atmospheric and didn't feel very TV-like and fake.
One thing I'm noticing about Martha's episodes that I really didn't get the first time I watched them is at least this first half, 3/4 of the season seemed to be more geared towards the under 18, more geared towards kids. You know, we saw in the last episode, at the hospital, it just had that feeling, and this having the witches come into it. So it just, knowing that, I like it better. But seeing it, when I first watched it, I was looking at it from what we just watched in the whole Rose and that whole more of adult themes. So this, I didn't get, it didn't click right. But seeing it now as this is meant a little bit more for the younger group, I can really enjoy it that way.
Like it's a little lighter.
Right.
So it's refreshing coming from such a dark season 2.
That's a good point. I never thought of it that way. It makes a lot of sense. I enjoyed them just as much, but they definitely do feel different in that regard.
They also went to a different location to film. And instead of Cardiff, they're at this place that specializes in creating or recreating the Shakespeare sets.
So one of the things I was going to mention later, but I'll mention it now then, the Globe Theater, so that's not something they built for the show?
That's the actual Globe Theater.
It is the actual Globe?
They
is
went
it
to London.
So that's
Nice.
that's a museum there or some sort of...
No,
It's a working theater.
It's still a working theater with hay on the ground and everything.
not so much still. It's recently been built.
Oh, I see.
But they went and then did it as close to the original as they possibly
wow.
could. I really wanted to go there when we were in London, but we didn't make it.
In San Diego, there's a old Globe Theater there too, so I
That's quite a commute for William Shakespeare.
have an affinity, I guess, for the Globe Theater.
Lilith breaks the fourth wall. She talks directly to camera. And I've seen this episode dozens of times, and it really didn't strike me that she was breaking the fourth wall until I saw it last night taking notes for this. And I just kind of wonder, since it's like a Shakespeare thing, breaking the fourth wall is so common, and characters actually specifically their job was to break the fourth wall as the chorus. Is that why we accept it? We don't really kind of realize.
What part did that happen?
They're attacking the kid, and the two older witches keep going, and Lilith puts her heads up, looks straight into the camera, and recites, poetry about, but yeah, the end of the world is coming, kind of a thing.
And then she laughs.
And she's doing it straight to camera, but you don't really get the impression that she's breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And I think it is because of the Shakespeare motif. We kind of accept.
Maybe, because I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, next time you watch it, check it out. It's like she's saying those words directly to the audience, not to anybody else. The Doctor takes Martha to the Globe Theater, and they watch the play Love's Labour's Lost. Afterward, Shakespeare tells them that a sequel will come, but it can't be rushed. Lilith, who is sitting in the patron's box, takes out a poppet and begins an incantation. Shakespeare reacts to her spell by announcing the sequel, Love's Labour's Won, will debut the following night. The Doctor tells Martha it was a lost play that was never performed. So much for her quick little trip.
You want to talk about that Love's Labour's Won?
Well, it is a lost play. No one knows anything about it, but it was mentioned in an early folio.
Yeah, like a listing of plays.
And Love's Labour's Won was listed there.
So it's not a typo.
No, it's not. No. Russell did not make it up.
Yeah, it's not an error.
No.
There's a actual physical thing that says Love's Labour's Won.
But we have no information on it whatsoever at all. So it is the lost play.
And they mentioned that too in the commentary. Like, this is an actual real thing that could have existed and maybe did exist.
That's why I like these episodes. I just like historical fiction, and when people bring things that actually happen and make it sci-fi, it's great.
I think the way that happens in sci-fi is better than a conspiracy theory, because a conspiracy theory is from like a nut job, but then this guy's just taking it and running with it rather than this is the real thing. You know, that's it's like fan fiction almost, but not taken seriously.
Yeah.
Well, you just lost our conspiracy theory demographic.
You know, like Abraham
Bye,
Vampire
Clive.
Slayer.
Yeah.
You know, something like that. It's just like, okay, it's for real. This is not true at all, but
But it's fun.
There's some true facts in there, maybe one or two, that Abraham Lincoln was real, but he wasn't president. He was president. But other than that, you know.
I like how Martha sees things, how she first gets introduced into all these things, like the last episode, this one. She still has that wonder that other companions would have, but she's also so smart. She goes right into it. Well, what about slavery? Am I going to be okay? What about the butterfly effect kind of thing? Or, you know, if I
What
kill
a
my
butterfly ever
grandfather,
do
are
to
you going to? Yeah. So she's thinking constantly, but still has that joyous wonder of what's going on. Mm-hmm. So
And I love
that.
the doctor's response to it, where he's so casual about it, where it is just like, all right, well, just don't step on a butterfly and act like you belong here. No one's going to bother you. And then they go into the fun of the, you know, there's the recycling and the guys, you know,
Water cooler.
yeah, the shoveling the manure, and then the people are standing around the jug, and there's a water cooler moment where they're catching up on gossip, and then you know, the preacher's talking about hellfire and brimstone, and there's global warming. So, you know, it's just the doctor's having a fun little casual moment, and I think that helps to set the tone of the episode. This isn't going to be a really heavy Father's Day moment. Nothing's going to happen in this episode that's going to affect the course of the universe. So right away, they're just kind of setting the tone that they're going to have fun with this episode.
I liked how Martha asked, how's the TARDIS work? It's like, okay, well, that's way too long of an explanation.
Well, she also begins with, where are we? Excuse me. When are we? I have to get this right. That's always a time travel staple of time travel dialogue.
Yeah.
So I like that they made it a joke in this case.
And doesn't the doctor also say, you know, I'm tired of these first-timer questions? Something along that line?
It's with the psychic paper later on. He's like, I always hate starting from scratch.
That's it, yeah. And you know that's the writer.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments in this episode is when they're leaving the Globe Theater and they're in the mass of people, so they have to walk slowly. It's a slow moment, and there's no sense of urgency. I feel like in a lot of episodes at this moment, we've already had our inciting incident and we're running, but they're talking about like, Love Labor's lost. That is a lost play. I wonder if we're gonna find out whatever happened to it. You know, so there is a mystery, but at this point, Martha, since this is her first trip in the TARDIS, she's new to this. She doesn't like, it's not weighted. Whereas I feel like, you know, in a lot of the episodes in season 2, you know, Rose was already on to like, we need to solve this. This could be dire. You know, where Martha's just like, this is interesting. Like, maybe we're gonna find out. You know, and I just found that moment really nice and refreshing.
They took time to establish where they were and actually be there and explore it, which was nice.
Well, I think a lot of that too, writing-wise, like we got a cold open that didn't involve them, so they were able to sort of put what you're talking about out there, but then they can also have the Doctor and Martha do what you were saying.
I also like the doctor says, you know, you when you get back home, you can tell everybody you met Shakespeare. And she's like, oh, great. And then I'll be sectioned. Well, I looked that up, and that is how they refer to detained for a mental issue. So now that I know what that means, it's like the way Martha says it. It's just like, great. And I'll be put away. Like you said, season 2 got really heavy, and that was great. And that was fantastic. It was time for a little change.
The Doctor and Martha enter the Elephant Inn where Shakespeare is having a drink and Lilith is working as a serving girl. Shakespeare dismisses the Doctor as a fan but is very attracted to Martha and asks them to join him. The Doctor tries to use the psychic paper but the bard tells him that it is blank. which greatly impresses the doctor. They are interrupted by Linley, the master of the revels, who demands to see the script for approval, but since it hasn't been completed, he decrees that the play will not be performed and leaves. Lilith secretly snips some hairs from his head, attaches them to the doll, and the three witches psychically chant an incantation while Lilith holds the doll underwater. On the street, Linley starts spewing water, and as Lilith stabs the doll in the heart, he falls dead to the ground. The doctor tells Martha he drowned from witchcraft.
The doctor is just being the ultimate fanboy with Shakespeare, and it's a lot of fun to watch. He's got big words, he's got perfect words. He's just a wordsmith, just a crafter of the best words ever. And then Shakespeare is sick of fans.
Yeah.
He's just, I don't have time. I'm not signing anything. Go away.
You can't have a sketch with me.
Right, yeah. I got a kick out of that.
16th century selfie.
Like backing up a little bit when they're in the play in the middle of the crowd. And then the doctor's like, oh, there he is. He's going to speak.
Shut your fat mouth.
That's right.
Was the elephant the name of the place in reference to anything? No.
I can't find it. I know it was a reference to something, but I can't find it right now. Sorry.
So he told Shakespeare that Martha was from Fredonia.
You know the reference?
I can't. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember.
Duck Soup, the Marx Brothers.
Oh, okay, yes.
I find this version of Shakespeare very dreamy. Like, I feel like it gives Ralph Fiennes a run for his money. I also like how the Shakespeare's also smitten with Martha. He's ready to dismiss the doctor as the fanboy that the doctor is, but then he sees Martha and he's like, "Ooh, who is this?"
He said some words that are not
appropriate.
to use towards black women.
And then he's like, with such fitted clothing.
I like when they were over the body of the dead fella. They said something about, we can't tell everyone that they'll think it's witchcraft. Well, what is it? Witchcraft.
Yeah.
Actually, what bothered me about that was when Martha ran up to him, she didn't automatically check his vitals and start chest compressions like a doctor would normally do. And she just started calling out, are you okay? Can you hear me? And I'm like, she's a doctor. Why isn't she doing something that a doctor would do? And that kind of bugged me.
Yeah, especially since they already established that she's a doctor. Because she runs forward, she yells, "I'm a doctor too!" And it's like, yeah, she really is a doctor. But yeah, then she doesn't act like one.
Yeah, that bothered me. I'm like, so then the first thing she goes is to open his mouth to breathe into his mouth. I'm like, she would have known not to do that, other than checking his vitals first. So yeah, it just kind of bothered me.
I think they mainly just did it for time.
Yeah.
They had to move the story along. He's dead.
Yeah, see the water come out of his mouth, which is...
Yeah, but she could have done one chest compression and all the water came out.
Right.
Just something that looked a little bit
The
more...
way a doctor physically responds to stuff like that, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
This scene and the later scene with William Shakespeare as the puppet really reminded me of Stardust. I don't know if you
yes, absolutely.
Connect that. And I think Stardust was 2007, according to IMDb. When did this episode come out?
2007, April.
Okay, so
around the same time.
Very interesting.
Weird synergy going on there.
Yeah.
But back to Shakespeare, the actor that played him is Dean Lennox Kelly, and he was a stand-up comedian before he became an actor.
Maybe he was at Comic-Con.
Maybe.
So you can go watch his act, Kelsey, when Auburn's asleep at night.
I thought the effect of the water coming out of Linley was pretty good. They pumped a tube under his beard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought you just spit it out.
No, it was pretty impressive.
There's also the callback to an earlier joke where Martha sits down with Shakespeare and says, "Verily, forsooth, egads," and the doctor, "No, don't do that." Which, and that was a callback to
Tooth and Claw.
One thing, too, during this that wasn't confusing but just stood out to me first was just how much more I think the British, and especially British TV writers, probably have this respect and admiration for Shakespeare, where I don't think as Americans, even though we're still speaking English, I don't think we have the same kind of adoration that I'm sure actual British people would have for him.
Bite your tongue.
And second, during the end of the play, when Martha starts yelling "author," is that a thing that I'm just not aware of? Huh.
Yeah, they would yell that out.
Okay. Like
a
they
movie-
would, or is that a modern thing?
That's a
It's
modern.
a modern thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
there's a
plays?
Modern-ish.
There's a movie called Author with Al Pacino.
Oh, okay.
Where he plays a playwright.
I
Yeah.
see.
They would do it with the playwrights. They would want the author to get up on stage.
Is it a New York thing?
Oh, probably.
I don't know what that means, but it was just I had studied theater in college, and at no point did anybody ever do that.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just putting out some pretty bad theater.
I think
Take the hint.
It's probably very high society. Then.
yeah.
Did you ever have covens of witches appear over your play too?
No,
Then you're just not doing it right, are you?
no. We need that tetradeca.
We'll get there.
Fun to see the psychic paper not work.
Yeah.
That someone is
yes.
smart enough
That was really, really cool.
to just see through it.
Not just trained to notice
Right.
that it's psychic paper.
Yeah, it just didn't work on him because he's just too smart.
Yeah, this is the first time in the new series that somebody's too smart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the other one was the train, like you said.
And I love Martha going, but it says Dr. Martha Jones.
Right. That's a great way to get that joke out and then also explain what it is. 'Cause she fell for it. I also got a kick out of when she says he looks different than his portraits. Just basically saying, yeah, we know, we cast a guy who was a comedian.
He grew a beard.
Let's just get over it. It's television.
And they also threw the line in, don't rub your head, you'll go bald.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
well, that's later.
Yeah, lots of Shakespeare jokes peppered throughout this entire episode. And I think goes back to what Auburn says, the British, they just know Shakespeare. Like, they love Shakespeare. We like him. They love him.
I love him.
I think we should all brush up our Shakespeare.
Yes.
The doctor and Martha go to their room at the inn while Shakespeare stays up to finish the play. The doctor says it really isn't witchcraft, but some kind of psychic energy. He says Rose would know what is missing, but Martha wouldn't since she is so new to this, which annoys Martha. Lilith uses a marionette to control Shakespeare, who furiously finishes the play. Dolly, the innkeeper, walks in and screams as Lilith attacks her. The doctor and Martha find Dolly's dead body, and Martha sees a witch flying away on a broomstick. The doctor says Dolly died of fright.
This scene with the doctor and Martha on the bed was going to be more. They discussed this in the commentary between David Tennant and Christina Cole, who's playing Lilith. The doctor was going to be disrobing, let's put it that way, in like a nonchalant way, not in a sexual way. And then they decided to not do that, and I think that works better.
I agree.
I thought it was great that he just flopped down and he's just trying to think about what's going on and what to do.
Yeah, but it's also very mean to Martha. What's going on?
I wouldn't call it mean. I think...
Well, because he's obtrusive. He's obtuse to what's going on, but you can see it in her face, the acting.
Yeah,
that she's
sad.
disappointed. Yeah,
Yeah, but I think it's brilliant writing that he's talking about something totally separate, and it has that double meaning that isn't obvious to what she's experiencing.
So the first part where it's kind of slow and they're talking to each other, it's like a first date for Martha. And Martha's treating it like a first date.
but not the doctor.
But the doctor isn't. The doctor's treating it like, oh, this is what I do, and there's a companion, and this is what we do, and we go back to a room and we talk about it and we figure it out. But she sits really close to him, and she kind of leans in when he's talking, and it's like she has like this hope that she's like exuding, and the doctor's kind of like, whatever, this is the way it goes, and not even acknowledging or doesn't even realize that she has some kind of feeling like that.
I agree with Martha being infatuated with the doctor, but I think the doctor knows what he's doing, and I think he's being mean and an ass. On purpose.
Do you really?
I thought,
Yeah.
I thought he
It's the
was being a
first
jerk.
time
know.
that you say that, and I'm not saying
I know.
that.
It's we're sitting in a different chair. That's doing the whole thing.
When did we get these chairs?
I thought the first time watching this, didn't see the doctor acting like a jerk, but on second viewing, yes.
I think that he's really still reeling from Rose, and this is now
agree.
a new companion that's infatuated with him. He does not want that to go anywhere. He's still angry, and the way he's saying it was with a psychic paper. Oh gosh, I hate starting from scratch with somebody. I mean, that's insulting. And then, oh well, Rose would know. She would know what to say, but you're new. You wouldn't know it. Is insulting. It's not just so blank.
Yes,
He
it's
is
insulting.
pushing her away. He is being a jerk on purpose, but I don't think he's knowing how much it's coming off to Martha.
He is being a jerk, but I don't see him saying it in the tone that you just said it in.
Yeah, I didn't see it as on purpose this time.
Yeah, he's just solving the problem. He's trying to figure out what's going on, and everything else goes by the wayside when he does that.
Like trying to be friends with someone you know has a crush on you.
Right. But I think it's more of He's not as conscious of it, but he's doing it intentionally.
No, that totally means unintentional. Not cognitive of something means you're unintentionally pushing someone away.
See, that's I was like, I want to find the right words, and I can't. And where's Shakespeare when I need him?
He's dead. Hate to break it to you, he died.
in that it's not doing something without knowing it. It's like it's a subconsciously he's doing this.
And that's what I think he's doing.
But you and Brian had said earlier, at least how I took it, was no, he's just oblivious to what's going on. He's doing it like he would do to anybody. He'd be doing it to a male companion. He'd be doing it to a younger companion. It's like he's just oblivious of what he's doing. It's like, no, subconsciously he knows what he's doing. He's doing it for a reason. It's not because he's doing it for no reason.
No, I don't even think he's aware. That's why it's a subconscious. He's unaware of why he's doing it. That's how people treat the rebound. They're still stuck on the person that they care for, and that's why subconsciously they're doing all these things that are bad
That are
to this
perceived as
person,
mean.
that are perceived as mean, but they're not doing it intentionally. It's just the defense mechanism as a human being.
But I think the
to not
doctor
get
sees that he's
attached.
doing it. He's seen himself doing it, and he's aware that he's doing it, even though, it's not something that he wants to do. So he's seeing himself and doesn't know how to stop himself. It's not, he's oblivious to what he's doing.
That's not his motivation. He's not purposely doing it, but he notices that he's doing it, is what you're saying.
Right.
So it's unintentionally motivated, but he's not oblivious to the fact that he's doing it.
Right.
But, okay, instead of turning and angrily blowing out the candle, if Martha had looked at him and said, "Do you have any idea what's going on right now?" how would he have reacted?
Can I get a lawyer?
On the night of...
I got one.
Would he have thank you. Would he have acknowledged it and go, "Okay, I see what's going on with you," or would he have said, "What?"
Well, he wouldn't have acknowledged what's going on with her. He doesn't do that. We'll see that in future episodes, and we have it in the past.
If she confronted him and said, "Do you know what's going on right now?" In my opinion, the doctor would be like, "We're trying to solve the problem." And that's it. That's how I view what's going on with the doctor. He is utterly clueless at this point. Because also remember that we are talking about the doctor. His only experience with romance is, Rose. So he doesn't know about rebound. He doesn't know about people's emotions, or that Martha might even be flirtatious with him. For him, Martha is like, "You helped me out. You saved my life. I'm giving you this trip. Tomorrow you're going home." And that's what we agreed on. Everything's fine.
No, it's not that simple. Because
I
even in the
think it is.
TARDIS at the beginning, no, there's only one trip. There's only one trip. There's no ties with us. He's right there telling Martha. She goes, "Well,
Yes,
no, I only
he
fall
is
for
raw
humans."
emotionally.
Good,
He's
because
not
this
in a
is
good
not something
place.
we're going for. He knows that. It's already in his head.
Right. But he's not thinking that Martha's reciprocating it.
But the way you just said it was, he has no clue at all about this. He has no idea what
He
romance
has no
is.
clue what Martha's feeling.
Thank you.
Yes, that's what it is.
He has a clue of what's happening in his life and in his internal turmoil and all this, but he's not focused on Martha's feelings, and that's why hurting her feelings, it comes as an unintentional part of his hurt.
Thank you, co-counsel.
See, that's what I thought I was saying. It's like, wait a minute. How are we having this argument?
So, that happened. Shakespeare.
This is one of the funnest moments for me in the whole episode, where Martha brings up Harry Potter and he says, "Wait till you read book 7. I cried." And it's like, yeah, I did too, because it was that good. And the book came out 6 months after this episode aired.
So good.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
And they didn't have the title out publicly.
Oh.
And I think saying book 7 works.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like a Harry Potter fan would totally, "Oh yeah, book 7. And then a fun little meta moment because he was in the Harry Potter movies. He was Barty Crouch Jr. in 4.
And another thing he says to Martha is, she goes, "So it was witchcraft that killed him." "Oh, no, there is no such thing." It's just that dismissive attitude. But I wanted Martha to come back, "Well, then it is witchcraft. You're saying it's there, and they use it as their science, so it's real, and whatever we call it, that's it."
And that's what I think with the writing. I think they haven't developed Martha as much as an intellectual. They allude to it, but they don't really develop her in the writing. Kind of shows it little things that are there that could have been better that they didn't take time to.
I don't mind that Martha's not on top of it all the time and doesn't always have the answer. I think it makes her more relatable
But they allude to it often, and she's very quick-witted on things, like when she responds to the doctor. I felt like they fell short, especially in this episode, that she's, sexualized because she's very beautiful, and then her intelligence is kind of left on the wayside. She was just there to make the story move forward, not a main character.
Martha says that Shakespeare should know something since he wrote about the witches. Well, not yet. Shakespeare says the only person he knows who spoke about witches is Peter Street, the architect of the Globe Theater. They go to the Globe and discover it is a tetradecagon with 14 sides and 14 columns. The doctor wonders why 14 is so important. Martha points out there are 14 lines in a sonnet. The doctor wants to talk to Peter Street, but he went mad after he built the Globe, so they go to Bethlehem Hospital to talk to him.
Bedlam. The closed caption on to make sure I heard it right, because I was very curious as to where the word Bedlam came from, and I was like, oh, I get it. When people say, oh, it was Bedlam, it was a madhouse.
And the madhouse was Bethlehem.
Bethlehem Hospital, right. I get it.
No, and then some closed captioning, I think, had it as both.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Bethlehem, and then William Shakespeare corrected her as Bedlam.
Yep.
Or said that's what we're calling it. So it's like
I looked
going
it up
through a
last
transition of what the actual name proper, Bethlehem, but what are people calling it?
Yeah.
Right.
It moves along through Bethlehem to Bethlehem.
It was St. Mary of Bethlehem, and then Londoners just called it Bethlehem.
And then it turned into Bedlam.
And then,
Right.
well, it officially never turned to Bethlehem.
Right.
It just was a nickname.
A nickname.
Yeah.
And that's a saying? It was Bedlam?
Yeah.
Oh, I
it's
never
Bedlam.
heard that.
Oh, yeah. You really?
But this goes to Martha's intelligence, saying that she coordinated the 14 sonnets along with the 14. So she's bringing in information. So it is
Catch that.
giving that information. She does have the intelligence. She can make the correlations.
Yeah, they
but I want more
allude
of
to
that.
it, yeah.
I agree with you. Is that they say, yeah, see, she's smart. Okay, now we're going to put her in a different situation where she doesn't show it. But we're like giving you these little tidbits saying, yes, she is smart.
Is this also the moment Shakespeare kind of flirts with the doctor? Has that happened?
On the way to the Globe, yeah.
On the way to, and the doctor says, 57 academics just punched the air.
Yeah.
So, it's the whole debate over whether Shakespeare was gay or wasn't gay or was bisexual. But the 57 refers to
A sonnet.
Sonnet 57. And Sonnet 57, most of them are like addressed to his Dark Lady, who Shakespeare also refers to Martha as the Dark Lady. But Sonnet 57 is one of the sonnets that really kind of appears to be spoken to a man. So he's talking to a man. So the 57 academics just punched the air is a double meaning, talking about is Shakespeare gay or not. I thought that was fun.
I don't think it's happened yet, but when Shakespeare's sort of calling out the doctor for like that there's something going on that he's not saying, he's like constantly lying, and he says that constant performance of yours in that moment. Do you know which moment I'm talking about?
I remember it. What's your question?
I just like that. I like a lot that he calls him on it.
Yeah, because it shows that Shakespeare's a genius, and he can see through the doctor's front.
Well, in this conversation that we were just talking about between the doctor and Martha brings up the Tardis, and the doctor is talking about things that are outside of the realm of this time period, and Shakespeare's there and hearing it all, but he's not questioning it until later.
Yeah, he put it all
where other times, even with Charles Dickens, like Dickens was like, "What strange words are you speaking?" Or but Shakespeare's just like listening and watching and computing all of that information, which I thought tied together well to the end when
Yes.
he calls them all on their characters.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. That's a good observation.
Martha is disgusted at what is referred to as a hospital. They enter Peter's cell, and the doctor uses a psychic link to help Peter remember. He says that the witches were in his mind, always talking and making him build the globe to their specifications. They drove him mad. When the doctor asks Peter for the location of the witches, Doomfinger appears and kills Peter. The doctor says if he can identify her, he can have power over her. He recounts all that he knows, and Shazam! Names her a Carrionite, a species that uses words rather than numeric equations for their science. She screams in pain and transports back to the other witches. Lilith orders the others to go ahead to the globe, and she will meet them there once she has killed the doctor.
A better word may have been bazinga.
So how many times has the doctor used a psychic link?
Girl in the fireplace.
And Fear Her are the two in
With
the new
Chloe.
incarnation of the Doctor.
Well, the new season, yeah.
And way back in the first Doctor, he tells this to Ian Chesterton, who was one of his companions. And that was in The Sensorites.
Then the three Doctors special, where you had the first three Doctors on screen together, they all psychically are able to link to share information so we don't have to go through more exposition.
Oh, this is the hands on the head.
Yeah.
And even the Eighth Doctor during the movie had some kind of foreshadowing of seeing.
He had some
a
psychic ability because he could tell Gareth's future. But yeah,
It's just interesting that it's not used more often.
I kind of like that it's not used as often.
Me too.
Because it's a shortcut.
I mean, I agree with you. I'm glad that it's not.
Yeah.
Because I think that is a shortcut, but it is something that they don't really focus too much on.
It's kind of like you forget he has it.
Maybe it's like, the Vulcans. You also pick up the emotions and other things, and it's painful.
Well, and also, like, Renette was able to pick up everything from the doctor, so he's not going to want to do that with too many people. Renette was shocked, but it was okay because it was Renette.
Ooh,
but,
subtext.
What if Peter is like, oh, hi, I know your name now? He wouldn't like that.
Right.
So,
And I'm a madman who knows this information. That's not good.
yeah.
Was that why the doctor wasn't quick enough to save Peter? He was like, all right, we can get rid of this guy now. Let the Carrier Knight do her thing.
It's probably for plot convenience.
Yeah. I know when I first watched this again, I thought that they were saying Carrier Knights.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And so it wasn't until watching, the closed captioning was like, oh, carrion. Or like
The carrion pigeons, like
No.
more like rotted meat, like
Raw
a
meat,
vulture.
gotcha.
A vulture
would
is a
eat
carrion.
Yeah.
feed.
that's what I meant. And not pigeons. I meant vultures.
Oh, those carrion pigeons.
I'm thinking of Magic the Gathering, the card game.
Mystic Warriors of Ka.
Yes, that too. The Doctor tells Martha and Shakespeare that the Carrionites are an old race and are using both the words of the play and the shape of the theater to open a portal, so others of their race can enter and take over the Earth. Shakespeare goes to the theater to stop the play while the Doctor and Martha go to locate the witches. When he arrives at the globe, the two witches use their puppet to knock him out, and the play continues.
They're using a lot of old races in this so far. I mean, just the Arachnos, started, it was from the old times. And then this, they're the old times that were defeated. So it's like going, are you just pulling that? I want to know, just as a convenience. Or were they already mentioned in other
Seems
episodes?
to be like, there's another race that got, eons ago that got put into a void.
Right.
It's kind of shorthand, though, because it gives them a sense of gravity, a sense of importance. We're coming back. We were defeated a long time ago and we come back. It's shorthand.
Or you could just look at it as things like Brian just said, things like that kept happening. The Doctor's been alive for it all, and every so often one of them pops out. So it is something.
Or the Time Lords, because that was a whole Arachnos. All the Time Lords defeated them.
Right.
And now this.
Did they say that the Time Lords did this to the Carrion Knights?
The Eternals?
Yes, it was the Eternals. And we heard the Eternals before in
Army of Ghosts.
because when the Doctor was discussing the void between universes, he said the Eternals called it the Howling.
And I just think that it had to be something that's old with the Carrionite because there's so many stories that bring witches in, like throughout all of our history. So it has to be something that's really old, that this is what explains witches to this Earth.
It fits the motif of Shakespeare.
Yeah.
What did you guys think in the very beginning? Because it seemed to me like it could have been taken like he knows where they landed, or he's like, he has no idea, but he's totally acting like he does. Like, where are we? Like, take a look.
To be honest with you, when I watched this last night, was the first time I thought, honestly, the Doctor knows exactly where he landed.
Oh, yeah.
The TARDIS landed where he wanted it to land at the time and place. Because he does say, we're in London, it's 1599. He turns out to be right.
Does he say that before they exit?
Yeah.
Oh, he does. Okay, I didn't catch that.
Well, no, after.
Oh, after.
But I don't see it as he's doing that little play thing that he does. And he's like, and if I remember correctly, if we just go up here and turn left, it's the globe. It wasn't until just last night that I was thinking, finally, the TARDIS works properly.
Before they do exit, he says a brave new world, which is a Shakespeare
From
quote.
The Tempest.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think he does know exactly, or the writers knew enough to know exactly what to start.
Agreed.
Right. Well, here we have our Back to the Future reference.
Hooray.
Which, I love Back to the Future time travel. I think it's what introduced me to this whole genre of sci-fi at large. So I'm glad that they brought that up.
Also, she's like, the Back to the Future movie. And he's like, no, the Back to the Future novelization. Yes,
course,
the movie. Well, there was a novel, and I owned it, and I read it many, many, many times because I read books.
Was the movie better?
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes Oh, it's another podcast. The doctor and Martha find Lilith, who knocks out Martha by invoking her name. Lilith snips a bit of the doctor's hair and then flies just outside the window. She attaches the hair to the poppet and stabs it in the heart. The doctor collapses just as Martha awakes. Lilith flies off to the theater while Martha rushes to the doctor, pounds on his chest to get both hearts working. Then they run off to the globe. I do like that we have CPR 2 episodes in a row. So it's like, yes, Martha is a companion. She is a doctor. The doctor and Martha arrive as the other Carrionites are coming through the portal vortex. The doctor tells Shakespeare that only his words can reverse this. So improvise. His spell is working, but he needs one last word that rhymes with Tinker's cuss. And Martha yells, Expelliarmus! The Carrionites are drawn back into the vortex along with all the copies of Love's Labours Won.
Here's your JK moment.
I love it. I love it.
Such a good moment.
I love it.
And he thanks her too.
Yep, good old JK.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yes, I love
I
it.
think he might be saying good old, just kidding. No, but I remember showing this to somebody for the first time, and they were also right there when the Martha says the word, and because he was a fan of, or is a fan of Harry Potter as well, and so he figured out what she would say too, and I think it's great that that moment is predictable but yet gratifying at the same time.
I remember watching it for the very first time, and at the height of like the Harry Potter, I'd read all the books up to 7. I was, also waiting for 7, and yeah, it's just such a cool moment.
And it fits for Martha's character. The time period that Martha exists in was the height of the Harry Potter fandom. So it's like Expelliarmus. And I remembered, I think I screamed, "No way!"
Yeah, I think I might have had the same reaction as well. Yeah.
Just absolutely love that.
Just an interesting question, just the technicality of doctor regeneration. Doesn't the doctor regenerate when one of his hearts stops? Or
No.
that's not it?
No, because he's not dying.
He's not dying.
He's just sick.
Okay, so when does the...
When both hearts stop.
So
and he's
when
dying.
both hearts stop.
Yeah, when he's right at the brink of death, he can initiate regeneration.
Oh, I thought it was because of the hearts that he regenerated. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense for me.
While we were still in the room with Lilith and the doctor and Martha, Lilith tries to use the same name magic that she just used on Martha on the doctor and comes around to the name Rose, which I thought was really cool. I was watching this starting to get a little annoyed at the doctor's attachment to Rose, but I think this scene here, like, I don't know if it was something in the actual show that flipped it, but just in my mind, it flipped into being grateful that the doctor is remembering Rose, whereas, I mean, maybe not with this doctor as much, but I feel like there's some times where, somebody dies or something happens and we brush by it, and it's just like, oh, well, they're dead, or, oh, well, they're gone. But this moment, like, made me, at least on the second watch, made me, like, appreciate the loss and that it's still affecting the doctor today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked this callback to Rose much better than the earlier one.
Yeah.
And his reaction made more sense, too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you just made a mistake.
And I also think it makes the reason for his reaction to not engage in flirting with Martha more understandable.
As the doctor and Martha say their goodbyes to Shakespeare, Queen Elizabeth I arrives and recognizes the doctor. She screams, "Off with his head!" The doctor and Martha run back to the Tardis, while William Shakespeare laughs.
He won't be laughing when the Queen finds out she won't be seeing the play.
I like that at this point we kind of have that mirror from the very first episode, Rose, where the doctor takes her hand and yells, "Run!" Like, this is Martha telling the doctor to run. That was kind of neat.
That's a nice moment.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's nice.
I like how Shakespeare acknowledges what we've been arguing about, is that he's not going to kiss you.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, he's unaware
Yeah.
of what's going on here. He's like, but I will.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, as Shakespeare being the very intelligent, very perceptive person, he sees that dynamic and he's like, hey, ditch that guy and come with me.
Is that where she replies, "Not one of your best lines," or is that later?
No, that was the special effects.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
They
yes,
think
yes.
This is special.
That's right.
No, this was you have bad breath.
I got a kick out of what was it? Martha asked him, "What did you do to the queen that she wants to take your head?" And he said, "I don't know, but I'm looking forward to finding out."
Now, as someone who is not a Anglophile, who was the queen that we saw in Tooth and Claw?
Victoria.
Victoria. Okay.
Different queen.
Much
Much
later.
Earlier. No,
Later.
later.
Victoria's
Yeah,
much later.
Okay.
Much later.
Thank you.
Queen Elizabeth I was Henry VIII's daughter.
Okay. Yes, as an American, I do not have a clear in my mind timeline of these various monarchs.
Especially being out of high school for such a long
So
time.
Queen Elizabeth the First is the one that never got married, and
Virgin
cousin to Mary Queen of Scots.
Correct.
All right.
She killed Mary Queen of Scots.
Yes.
Yes, I remember that.
By beheading her?
Yep.
And then the queen later that starts Torchwood is like hundreds of
Victoria.
years later.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. This is 1599 with Queen Elizabeth. She died in 1601. And then Victoria is 1820s.
Okay.
But when we see her in Tooth and Claw, it's like 1860 something.
Later in her life. Back to Queen Elizabeth I. She is played by Angela Pleasance, who is Don Pleasance's daughter from Halloween.
And Prince of Darkness, John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness.
Yes.
Speaking of
And
actors
Blofeld.
and
He was Blofeld.
interesting connections, Dean Lennox Kelly is in frequently asked questions about time travel, which I thought was fun because of the way that Shakespeare is able to
Shakespeare.
read and figure out that they're time travelers. And it also makes me want to watch that show.
It's a good movie.
Is it a movie or a
It's a movie.
show? Oh, it's a movie.
She also, the Queen does another literary reference, but this time to Lewis Carroll, the off with his head.
Yeah.
Which the Queen Elizabeth would not have said,
that,
but
yeah.
that's okay.
It's funny. They were going to mention or make a direct reference to City of Death with the Fourth Doctor, but they decided not to. The Doctor previously has mentioned meeting Shakespeare with, like I mentioned, Tom Baker in City of Death, and then in The Mark of the Rani with the Sixth Doctor. And, it's just been, this is the first time he actually physically meets him.
And we were discussing earlier all the Shakespeare references. So some of them include the Doctor tells Shakespeare that all the world's a stage, and that's from As You Like It.
I'm gonna put a ding when I wrote it down. Ding,
The play's a thing.
ding.
What's that from?
Oh well, one of the plays.
Retract that
the
ding.
play- no. It's Hamlet.
There you go.
I thought that was Hamnet. Hamnet?
The Sycorax. The
Well-
skull looks like a Sycorax.
That's a Shakespeare reference. Didn't get that. I just thought it was a Doctor Who reference.
No, that is the Sycorax is from The Tempest.
Oh, I didn't really like that one. It's boring.
I don't like The Tempest either. And then Shakespeare himself coins the phrase "to be or not to be."
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's a
too
little
pretentious. Yeah.
Hamlet.
Then much more into the breach. And then I like how Shakespeare goes, "Oh, that is one of mine," from Henry V.
Hey, Nani Nani.
That's my favorite. Henry V is my
Much.
favorite.
Much ado about nothing.
Had he written that by that time in this?
Henry V.
No, when he's Much Ado About Nothing.
Yes. Much Ado About Nothing had been written by 1599.
I think yeah, and by
1599. It was like in the 1570s, I think.
Yeah, because he had moved on. After 1599, it was mainly just the tragedies.
Yeah.
It was the dark stuff. It was Hamlet. It was Macbeth, The Tempest, and I think Lear. I think he wrote Lear, which, oof. And you said, "Hey, Nani Nani." Is that Shakespeare?
It's in Much Ado. They say it a lot in Much Ado. It's a musical.
It doesn't have.
Thing.
It doesn't mean
It's-
something specific. It's like a.
I don't think Shakespeare even made it up. I mean, might have, but I don't think so. I think it was just a common musical.
Hey now.
Obla di obla da.
Yeah. Do they have on that list when the Doctor does another literary reference and then Shakespeare's like, "Ooh, can I have that?" And he's like, "You can. It's someone else's."
Yes.
I thought that was funny because he's accused of plagiarizing.
Rage against the darkness of the.
Dylan Thomas.
Yeah. And I did find the elephant reference.
Oh.
The inn is named the Elephant, and this name is in Twelfth Night. The three Carrion Knights are obviously the Weird Sisters from Macbeth. And then the Doctor uses the phrase "A Winter's Tale."
Oh, I didn't catch that.
He does it with Peter when he's mind melding with Peter to try and get him to speak. And then Peter himself uses the phrase "poor Tom" in the same way as the Mad Edgar does in King Lear.
Who's that actor who played Peter? He looked familiar.
He looked like Bruce Spence.
Matt
because of the
King
teeth, but
plays
it's
Peter
not.
Street.
Who is from the Peep Show, Super Hands, and Bronson, Rock and Rolla.
Looks like I don't recognize him at all. The guard or the nurse in the hospital was one main character in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Really?
Guy Ritchie movie, yeah.
And don't forget, as if.
Right.
Because he says that when, sure, the queen's going to come, as if. She never does. So he says as if in this.
Yeah.
Shakespeare's leaving the
Yeah,
Globe
he's leaving.
Theater
Yeah,
to go
but
to...
was that a reference to?
We
Modern
mentioned it.
vernacular.
Yes.
The 80s.
Clueless.
Oh, Clueless. Yeah.
Because we did that in the another...
Oh, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's from Clueless, because Clueless is an adaptation of what? Well, Emma. I think that's an adaptation of Emma, which,
Yes.
Bronte.
which is not Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Different.
All right, well, you see
Bronte,
where
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, many centuries later. And Shakespeare is credited with adding 2,000 to 3,000 words to the English language, including assassination, eyeball, leapfrog, and gloomy.
Another literary reference is the Ray Bradbury 1952 short story, A Sound of Thunder, with the butterfly effect. That's where that comes from.
Oh,
I think
What
that's
have butterflies ever done to you?
you plan on killing your great-grandfather?
Would that be unintentionally?
This episode doesn't have the use of the sonic screwdriver or a Mr. Saxon reference.
Yeah.
Which I realized it's either the sonic screwdriver or the psychic mind melding. You can't do them both in the same episode.
So, who is this episode good for? Meaning, this episode is good for who?
I love this episode. I don't know what it was. I just really enjoyed it. Enjoyed watching it again.
You like the past.
I do. I like historical fictions. So I'm going to say for everybody.
I think this is a good start to Doctor Who. You know, it introduces a new companion. You're getting going. You're getting a fun episode. So I think this is one that you can introduce a new viewer to. So it would fall into category 1 for everybody from new viewer on.
Well, I am going to agree with Arlene and Frank for the reasons that you guys said. Yeah, we get introduced to a lot of the things that make Doctor Who, the historical fiction stuff. Martha is still new, so we get to experience some of that with her. And also Shakespeare is great. There's a lot of wordplay. It's a really fun episode. So yeah, I'll agree. For a new viewer all the way to diehards.
I agree as well. From a new viewer all the way to the diehards, it's just fun from beginning to end.
Yep, I would introduce this to a new Who viewer. I think this is a fun episode. I agree with everything you all said, which actually might be a little surprising because this episode is kind of similar to the Charles Dickens episode in season 1, and I didn't agree that would be a good episode to introduce a new Who viewer to. So maybe I'm changing, or this episode was that much better. But yeah.
I agree. I agree with everyone. And off of what you were just saying, I think maybe it's better paced. Maybe I think the show's really got its legs now. So anything that I like that other episode that you were just talking about, the Charles,
Unquiet Dead.
the Unquiet Dead. Thank you. But I bet you if we looked at it compared to this one, it's probably slower paced. It's probably a little bit more.
It's darker.
It's darker. Maybe
It's darker physically and darker in tone.
Yeah. So
So it
maybe
could be that this one's just more fun.
Yeah, and it's chock full of stuff, like all the references, and it moves pretty well. If you're okay with the silliness of the way the witches look, which I thought was pretty good makeup, but it's very silly. That's the only thing.
But it's done for a reason.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it is a Shakespearean Weird Sisters from,
Yeah, but if you're not familiar with that,
You should be.
Yeah, go to school.
But if you're not, I mean, I didn't know about that in Shakespeare till I was older. They were just witches and stuff. So if I was younger and a bit skeptical, I may see that just looks silly, like an old cartoon.
But the British kids would have known.
Oh, well, there you go.
You're talking the Carrionites?
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Like how...
They look like a ripoff of the Henson Muppets.
Yeah.
Puppets. And when it was in the cloud and they're coming through during the rehearsal. And so that is the part that
With the big
Just didn't
noses
do it right.
or Witchy Poo from the Looney Tunes.
Loved it.
I loved it. I'm not saying there's
great.
anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that that's the only thing to me in the episode that can be sort of picked on if someone was to pick on it. But I think it's good for a new viewer.
I have showed this to somebody fresh, my friend Gonzalo. He was the one that figured out the Expelliarmus at the end. And I think for that...
That's so him.
Yeah. And I think
he did.
Of course. And so I think that that's awesome that somebody, not knowing Doctor Who, but knowing Harry Potter, could jump into this and be like, I know what they're going to say. I would also classify this for a new Who viewer. I think this is our first unanimous.
It's a unanimous introduction.
Yeah. So you've heard our views. What do you think of the way that the Doctor is treating Martha at this point in her story? Let us know. Email us at whonewpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook.
At The Universe Explodes.
All our episodes are engineered by our very own Auburn.
Find me at auburnbinkley.com.
You can find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcasts.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
All our episodes are on whonewpodcast.com.
You can leave comments there or email us at
whonewpodcast@gmail.com.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who.
The longest running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
thanks to Russell,
Sydney Newman.
Verity Lambert.
Ron Grainer.
And all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain. I mean, they have references throughout the
Yeah,
whole
I'm
thing.
sure there's a bunch we missed.
And probably more than any list ever covers because it's all over this.
Feel free to leave a comment or send us an email if you picked up on any Shakespeare references that we have missed.
Yeah.
The Doctor... You look like a timeout.
Oh, I was applauding.
Frank is silently applauding Eugene's
say it again.
pronunciation.
I'll take it from the last sentence.
Sorry.